Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there is a lovely little girl. Everyone loves her, but her grandmother loves her the most. She gives everything to her child. Once she gives her a little riding hood of red velvet. It suits her so well, and she never wears anything else. That is why people call her Little Red Riding Hood. The grandmother lives out in the wood about 2 kilometers from the village. One day her mother says to her, "Here is a piece of cake and a bottle of milk. Take them to your grandmother. She is ill and weak. Go quickly before it gets hot. Walk quietly and do not run off the path, or you may fall and break the bottle. Don't forget to say good morning to her." "Okay, Mom," says Little Red Riding Hood. When the Little Red Riding Hood enters the wood, a wolf meets her. Red Riding Hood does not know that he is a wicked creature, so she is not afraid of him at all. "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood," says the wolf. "Thank you, Wolf. Where are you going, Little Red Riding Hood?" "It's early. To my grandmother's." "What do you have in your apron?" "Cake and milk. It will make my sick grandmother stronger." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "About 2 kilometers in the forest. Her house stands under the 3 large oak trees. The nut trees are just below." "I think you know it," replies Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thinks to himself, "What a tender young creature. She will be better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily so as to catch both." After a while he says, "See, Little Red Riding Hoods, the flowers here are little birds are singing. You are walking along as if you are going to school." Little Red Riding Hood raises her eyes. She sees the sunbeams dancing here and there through the trees and pretty flowers growing everywhere. She thinks, "If I take some beautiful flowers to my grandmother, she will be happy. And it's still early. I will get there in time." So she runs from the path into the wood to look for flowers. Every flower is prettier than the one she picks before. She goes deeper and deeper into the forest. Meanwhile, the wolf runs straight to the grandmother's house and knocks at the door. "Who is there?" "Little Red Riding Hood," replies the wolf. "I bring you cake and milk." "Open the door." "Lift the latch," says the grandmother. "I cannot get up. I'm very weak." The wolf lifts the latch. The door opens, and without saying a word he goes straight to the grandmother's bed. The hungry wolf devours the old woman immediately. It's 3 days since he eats something. Then he wears her clothes, dresses himself in her cap, lays himself in bed, and draws the curtains. The Little Red Riding Hood arrives with beautiful flowers with her. She enters her grandmother's house and says, "Good morning," but there are no answers. So she goes to the bed and she draws back the curtains. There lay her grandmother with her cap pulled far over her face. But she looks very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she says, "what big ears you have. All the better to hear you well, my child." The cunning wolf replies, "But, grandmother, what big eyes you have," she says. "All the better to see you with, my dear," he replies. "But, grandmother, what large hands you have," she says. "All the better to hug you with," he replies. "Oh, but grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have," she says. "All the better to eat you with," he replies. And he catches the young girl and swallows he immediately. Then the wolf lays down again in the bed. He falls asleep and begins to snore very loud. The huntsman is just passing the house, and he thinks to himself, "How the old women are snoring. I must just see if she wants anything." So he goes into the room. He comes to the bed and he sees that the wolf is lying in it. "At last, I find you here, you old sinner," says the huntsman. "I seek you for a long time, and now you are here." Now he's ready to fire at the wolf, but he thinks to himself, "Maybe the wolf devours the old woman. I may save her." So he does not fire him. He takes a pair of scissors and begins to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf. After that, the young girl and her grandmother come out alive, but hardly able to breathe. Red Riding Hood quickly looks for great stones and puts them in the wolf's belly. Few minutes later, the wolf awakes. He heavy that he collapses at once, and he dies. Then all the 3 are so happy. The huntsman draws off the wolf's skin and takes it home. The grandmother eats the cake and drinks the milk, and she becomes better. Red Riding Hood thinks to herself, "I will never leave the path by myself to run into the wood."